Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Charlie Panayi. Charlie, it's great to connect with you. I love talking to people on this podcast, especially when they're in places all over the world. So it's great to connect with you. So today I thought we'd talk about, you started your business and investing in real estate. And I think a lot of times people want to do that and they don't know where to begin. They don't know what that first step is. It's like the chicken or the egg, the property or the money or the property, and once you have the money, how do you understand what a property is? I have a background in commercial real estate. I was a broker and for about 15 years, sold apartment buildings. And so I kind of understand kind of how people go about it. But from an investment standpoint, from you, if you were to advise somebody how to get started, how do you do that today?
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
I think the first thing would be education. So if I rewound, and I might look younger than I am, who knows, but I started buying properties in 2007 and 2008, and I was relatively ignorant to education because I was earning good money. So I just bought properties. Now, if I could turn back time, I would have educated myself first. I don't mean over-educating. I meet far too many people in the real estate sector, and this is all over the world. I work in the US, UAE, and the United Kingdom. And they've been doing education for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. And it's like they're just talking about it.
Yeah.
But do get that education, because actually the only issue with real estate is there is so many ways to make money in real estate. And the problem with that is if you don't understand your end goal of what you're trying to achieve, you'll go down a route of real estate, and then 2 years, 5 years later, you realize that wasn't the best strategy for me. Yes, I'm making money, but it's not really suiting what I wanted to achieve. So I think education's key. If you know a friend or an actual friend that's done real estate, because again, this is another common thing I get told. Oh, my friend said this. Have they ever bought a property? No. What? Right. So let's find someone who can maybe mentor you. Sometimes there's friends or family, if they're experienced, or just go and pay someone. Just if there's someone there that's done what you want to do, and I think this is the same in any business I'm involved with, to be fair. Go and pay them. There's a gent that I paid last year for something in a certain type of conversions in Europe, that I've done more business than this guy. I've been in the business longer than this guy. But he was doing something that I just didn't understand how he was doing it. Now, I could have found out myself. It would have took me, who knows how long, a year, 2 years. Instead, I picked up the phone to him. I said, look, how much do you want to tell me what you're doing? He's like, £12,000, English pounds. I was like, okay, send it over. Took him a day, bang, I know how to do it. And I've made probably nearly $350,000 from that one day.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reality. So education is key, but not too much. You do have to take action, and you don't actually need money to start in property. Now, what I mean by this is there's lots of other ways to make money in property before you've got that money. I mean, we could be here all day talking about that, but there is ways. So if you educate yourself, you'll learn those ways, rather than thinking I've got to wait until I've got $30,000 or however much to get going. You can do it. You can make money in property without owning a property.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a riddle a lot of times that I use in my keynotes, which is, five frogs are sitting on a log and 4 decide to jump off. How many frogs are left on the log? And everybody says, well, 1. Well, I said, no, there's actually 5, because they just decided they didn't take action. And I think one of the things, whether it's buying real estate, starting a business, pivoting your business, evolving to the next steps, one of the things I see as a business coach is, and I work with, solopreneurs to Fortune companies, executives down to salespeople, managers, et cetera, is people don't take enough time from what I see. They don't take enough time to pause. They don't take enough time to plan. They don't take enough time to zoom out and look at all the different angles of things. And because there's like this, everybody's running so fast that it's almost like if you slow down, you don't feel like you're working. And I think what you're saying requires, what you're talking about, which I really like, is, take a moment, figure out who your right mentor is, learn from that mentor, educate yourself. And just because you want to buy a building tomorrow, you may want to wait 6 months to make sure it's the right. Because if you in real estate, you make money on the buy. So if you buy wrong, you're in trouble. Can you talk about,
exactly.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and that's key. But obviously, there is a fine line. Like I said, I know some people that educate too much and don't take any action. So
Correct.
you actually need to take action. There's people that who follow me regularly who will know I'm probably talking about them because I'm quite direct to some of the people that speak to me regularly that don't take action. But I think it's a bit of a problem in the world, really. Not just certain countries you don't see as much of it, but you do. You just see people that we're just scared to come off the merry-go-round. Especially solopreneurs or small business owners. They're so afraid to say no to something because it's like, well, what if I don't get asked again?
Yeah.
And I call it that merry-go-round. They're just afraid to jump off that merry-go-round. But it's absolutely fine to get off that merry-go-round and take a holistic view. And we see this saying quite a lot. And some people who aren't business people say it's cheesy, but you do want to work on your business rather than in it. The quicker you get yourself out of your business. Now, as speakers, and I do a lot of speaking events, I'm not a speaker necessarily, but obviously we physically have to be there, John. But in your business, it's better to be working on it rather than in it. So the quicker people understand how to scale, how to get themselves out of that business and really work on it, that's when you really, really take businesses to different levels. And that's why when I buy businesses, I don't ever have any intention of being involved in them. I put the right people in them. That's my job. I put the right people in them who will scale it for me.
Yeah. Well, it's like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett buys companies and he's looking at the management team, like who is going to grow and scale the business. I would like to talk a little bit about, everybody, there's the good deals, the bad deals, and then the lessons that you learn from when you get burned. So what's a lesson that you've learned from something you did wrong that somebody else can learn from today?
So this is probably, I've been touch wood very relatively fortunate so far in my career where I've seemed to figure out early doors that a lot of my business is done on trust. Now, you could be the best person in the world at what you do. If I don't trust you, we're not doing business. And I went outside of that 3 years ago and done some business with a company, quite a large company in the UK. And I didn't know them that well. I knew they were successful at what they'd done, but I didn't know how well they do it. And to be quite direct, it burned me. Not significantly, but it doesn't matter if it's a pound to me. I'm still going to not like it. And I think what I learned from there is actually, in my opinion, if there's no trust, you don't do business with people.
Yeah.
And I look at it as a relationship. I got presented a company a few days ago where the numbers looked absolutely amazing, but there's no synergy between my values, what I want in life. I know it might be sounding a little bit too spiritual here, but this is my reality.
Yeah.
And also, the person was a good business person, but the gent wasn't trustworthy. Now, I made that mistake a few years ago, and I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
Yes, the business looks amazing. He's not trustworthy, and there's no synergy in the business, so we walk away.
Yeah, you really got to listen to your gut. I can think of, two stories, three things that I've done for sure off the top of my head right now. Clients I've worked with, business deals I've gotten in, where my gut told me, or it looked good on the surface, but my gut told me, do not do this. Do not do this. And I did it. And, I think that's how you train your gut, right? You train your instinct. Yeah. I said, oh yeah, like I knew I shouldn't have, but I think, to your point, I think a lot of people say that, but now you really then have to raise the frequency and vibration of that next decision, which I think is.
I think it works. It works. It's like I said, it's not happened to me too often, but this did actually happen with a friend as well. A couple of years ago, so I had two things in the same year. It wasn't ideal. I wouldn't say best friend, but a friend of mine for 15 years, and I had too much trust. They come to me. I knew they needed the project, so I wanted to help them. I knew they were good people, but the reality is, I then went too far on that one.
Yeah.
And actually, I should have been a bit more business minded and say, look, do you know what? Are these guys capable of delivering? And it turned out they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, good. Well, that's how you do it. Let's talk about so you're buying real estate, and now you want to continue to kind of manage the real estate, right? You want to, and that's a really hard part too. I think that people don't think about, which is the maintenance piece of it.
Yeah.
It's like I talk to people who buy franchises and they think it's going to be easy, and then
No.
they realize, wow, I didn't realize it was going to be so hard. The turnover, the recruiting, the training, the this. And so, what should people kind of, as they forecast, what are they not thinking about that they need to think about?
So I think it probably comes back down to education. People just think if they think yields, that's quite a common question I get. I get a phone call or a message saying, "Hey, I really want to buy this piece of land or this property, and it's that will give me a 7% yield." Okay, but why do you want 7%? Well, that's what's said on Google. Well, do you even know what yield means? So I think for me, it's about being realistic with the numbers. I think that's what people really don't do, and it sounds stupid, but people get too emotionally involved when we're buying property, because I call it a sexy asset. It's physical. You can see it. You can touch it if you want to touch it. So we get a bit too emotional when we're buying property. When it's a different type of investment, it is actually more a numbers game. If you think stocks and shares, it's pure numbers. When it comes to property, people sometimes get a bit too emotional, and they can see the numbers and they're thinking, oh yeah, it's a 7% yield, but they haven't taken into account maintenance costs. They haven't taken into account tax. They haven't taken into account management costs if they're not going to manage it themselves. And then they end up being left with not as much money as they thought. And that's because they got too emotionally involved. And I've been prone to nearly doing it. At times you really do like a property. You just got to remind yourself, this bit of real estate isn't for me to live in. This is a pure investment. And as harsh as it sounds, you can be cutthroat. If too many investors get a bit too worried about, will I, as their sellers themselves, will I offend the seller by putting this offer forward? Why does it matter? You're not doing it to offend them. It's a numbers game. As long as you can demonstrate to yourself, I want it for this much because there's the numbers, then the deal's right. As soon as you go outside of that and offer 10, 20,000 more because you like it, that's when it falls apart. And I think when we come to managing real estate and businesses again, but real estate specifically, that's where people go wrong. And also the whole managing yourself is a bit of a bugbearer for me because, let's say I'm an absolute specialist in buying businesses. Doesn't mean I've got any idea around real estate.
Right.
Just because I'm good. And actually, I love soccer for you guys, and Chelsea Football Club recently got bought by an American company. And they're making all sorts of howlers in terms of structuring a Premier League football club and how they're doing it. But that's because they know business, but they definitely don't know football or soccer. They don't know soccer. So I think when we come to managing our own real estate, is that really your speciality? Because I tell you what, focus on what you're good at and then find someone that's good at managing it, because it is your investment. And if you have to pay them 7%, 12%, 13% per month, pay it. Because if you get someone who's good at what they do, they're going to look after it and you're going to get better return on investment long term. I see it far too often. And if anyone I mentor or work with on the property world and invested with, that's the first thing I get out of the head. Unless you're going to be full-time manager, which I don't think anyone really wants to be. People do. But I mean, in entrepreneur worlds, we don't want to be a full-time manager.
Right.
We don't want to be owners. We want to be financially free. We want to do what we want to do. So why are you even thinking about managing yourself? Because you will never be financially free if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I love it. Stay in your lane and focus, and don't fall in love with the real estate. And get them. You never want to get too emotionally connected to it. You'll make bad decisions.
I do have my first ever one though. To be fair, the first I ever bought was definitely not my worst in terms of I've never lost money in it, but it was my worst investment because of that exact thing. I bought it emotionally, but I still own it. I can't let it go.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, it's like right. It's like it's hard to let go, but sometimes you need the reminder so you don't make the mistake again.
Yeah. That's what I'll say to myself now.
The burn usually rubs off once you learn the lesson. Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally. Lingering of it. All right, quick speed round, Charlie. A book that's had a big impact on you.
Indistractable.
Tell me about it.
I can't remember who wrote it actually. Is it Nair something? Nair? I can't remember his surname. Nair Eyal, I feel, but Indistractable, great book. Just reinforces a lot of the things my brain did that I didn't realize I'd done. And the reality is we're in a world where we're distracted by everything.
Yeah, sounds good. And sounds like a good book. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Oh gosh. Sorry, I know it's meant to be a quick round. I've been given a lot of good advice in my career, but I think from a very early age, I got told to focus on myself, not anyone else. No comparisons. And that was probably the best thing I heard at 17 years old. Never compare yourself to anyone else. Find out who's the best at it, copy them, make it better, but don't compare.
Right, and layer in your own unique ability. I love that. Last question. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to get started on something that they've been procrastinating on is
take action.
Good.
I just say get on with it.
I love it.
That's it. That is all I say to people. Like, stop making excuses. I'm in the process of writing a book about excuses, but you know, we all want to make excuses. It's absolutely natural for all of us to have imposter syndrome. If you, I would imagine you get it. I get it. All of us get it.
Yeah.
The difference between successful people and average people, and I don't mean the word average offensively for anyone listening, but the difference between being average and successful is the people that are able to understand, hey, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel this way, but I'm gonna get on with it.
Yeah, I love it. Charlie, this was great. I love this podcast. I get to, I work with people who are successful and stuck, get them unstuck. This podcast brings on guests to help align with my mission on that. As a business coach, I love what I do, and I want to extract a couple of things that you said today, which I think is really important. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, because people don't realize that their unique ability is unique because it is uniquely unique to them. So once people kind of fall into that, and I see that with a lot of people I coach, when they realize that their ability is unique and everybody doesn't have it, it's easier for them to stay in their lane and not compare themselves to everybody else. So I appreciate that comment. It's great hearing about your business and the fundamental things that seem so simple. They're actually very complicated, and requires us to really listen to our gut. THNK community, Charlie can be reached at charliepanayi.com. And if you want to talk about coaching, I can be reached at jondwoskin.com. Charlie, this was great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Charlie.